In Acts 23, 1-5, the Jews apprehend Paul and bring him before the Sanhedrin. Paul looks them in the eyes and says that he served God and kept a clean conscience. For this remark, he's slapped on the mouth at the request of Ananias the high priest. Paul is furious. He says, "God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there and judge me according to the law, yet you violate the law by commanding that I be struck." In response, those standing by said, "Would you revile God's high priest?" Paul's response is a bit strange. He says, "I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest, for it is written, you will not speak evil of the ruler of your people." Now, this raises a natural question. Why is it that Paul didn't realize who the high priest was? Ananias was the son of Nebuchadnezzar. He was the high priest when Felix's predecessor, Quadratus, was president of Syria. The historian Josephus reports that Quadratus bound Ananias and sent him to Rome. This was so that he could give an account to the Emperor Claudius over some shady business. Agrippa interceded for Ananias, and so he was able to return to Jerusalem. But Ananias wasn't restored to his former office of high priest. Jonathan succeeded Ananias. We know this because Josephus refers to Jonathan occupying the office of the high priest during Felix's reign. This implies an interruption in Ananias' high priesthood. Josephus tells us that assassins killed Jonathan inside the temple. After Jonathan's death, the office of the high priest remained unoccupied for some time. Eventually, King Agrippa appointed Ismail, son of Phabi, to be the high priest. The events in Acts 23 took place in this interval. Ananias was in Jerusalem and the office of the high priesthood remained vacant. So by his own authority, Ananias acted, assuming the role of the high priest. This explains Paul's words in Acts 23:5 when he says, "I did not know, brothers, that he was the high priest." This is another really difficult detail that Luke gets correct. He doesn't even take the time to explain the historical backstory in the account, and these sources interlock in a way that points to the truth of the narrative that we find in Acts. Some think that Paul was being sarcastic here when he says, "I didn't know that he was the high priest." He was probably well aware that Ananias is not the high priest properly so called. So when he says, "I didn't know he was the high priest," the subtext is because he's not. He's a usurper. Paul is just being snide here. There's a whole lot more that I could say, but I'll stop here for now.